Hey, Scribe, and welcome back to the Right Podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Williams, best-selling romance author, book coach, and founder of Serenade Publishing. Today's episode is a must-listen if you've ever dreamed of creating those stunning, collector-worthy special editions of your books, complete with foil, sprayed edges, custom art, or even character plushies, but weren't sure how to fund it or where to start. The truth is, self-publishing doesn't have to mean plain paperbacks and zero reader interaction. You can create beautiful, immersive products and build a passionate fandom around your stories. And Kickstarter might just be the secret weapon you've been looking for. I'm joined today by the incredible Steff Green, who writes as Steffanie Holmes and is the author behind the wildly popular Nevermore Bookshop series. Steff has raised hundreds of thousands of dollars through Kickstarter, all while creating magical, world-building merch that her fans can't get enough of. She's walking us through exactly how she's done it, what makes a campaign successful, and how you can use Kickstarter not just to fund special editions, but to deepen the connection with your readers and build a thriving community. Let's dive in. Steff Green, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, it's so good to be back again.
I love you so much. You're always such a wealth of information that you're like that person that I could just do 10 episodes with and we would still have so much to talk about.
It could just be the Steph and Sarah podcast.
Oh my God, we should totally do that. That would be awesome. So, for those people who are watching maybe for the first time and haven't heard about you before, could you just give us a quick introduction about yourself?
Sure can. So I write as Steffanie Holmes and I write kooky, spooky romance. So I'm basically kind of like sort of paranormal rom-coms, I guess you could say, with just a little bit of a gothic flavor. And my best-selling series is the Nevermore Bookshop series, which is about this magical bookshop that brings the heroine goes and gets a job there, and the bookshop brings infamous fictional villains from classic literature to life. And we're going to talk a lot about the Nevermore Bookshop and the Nevermore Bookshop world today. So, yeah.
Absolutely awesome. And I am halfway through your series at the moment. I'm loving it so much. It's so good. Highly recommend it. We did actually do a book club episode earlier in 2025 on Thanks for Nothing. And my guest and I, Meg, we just gushed about it the whole time. It's like, how did we not know this book existed before today? So
And book two's coming out in January, so
amazing. Oh my gosh, it is definitely going to be on my very early 2026 reading list. So that's awesome. So again, you're an absolute wealth of information. You've been in this industry for a while, and I'm just so inspired by everything that you do. And like I said, I could just pick your brain for hours, but I'm not going to do that because today I am excited to talk to you all about Kickstarter. So you've used it very successfully many times over the years, is that right?
yes, I have done four successful Kickstarters, and we're about to ramp up to do our fifth one. And it was supposed to be in November, but we delayed it, so we're running that in February. And we'll probably do two Kickstarters next year, maybe even three if I can get it in.
Awesome, awesome. So explain for the people who are complete newbies and they're like, what are you talking about? What is Kickstarter? I've never heard of that before.
Okay, so Kickstarter is a crowdfunding platform, and it is one of the earliest sort of crowdfunding platforms. And what this means is that you, as a creator, have a really cool project that you want to get off the ground. But in order to do that, you need some funding, you need some money. So for us as authors, it normally means we want to do a really fancy pants special edition of our books. But in order to do that, we need a little bit of money so that we can go in and buy the books and get all the like cool bells and whistles, and maybe even do a little bit of merch. And so what we do is we set up a Kickstarter. And it's a little campaign. It runs for a set amount of time, usually about a month or a little bit less than a month. And our readers or our audience can go and back that campaign. And so they would choose from a selection of tiers that you, or reward tiers that you have created. And those might include things like they can choose to back it at the book tier and they get a book, or they could back it at like an ultimate fan tier and they might get an annotated book or some like special piece of merch or some kind of fan thing that you do for them, for example. And so you've got a month and you've got these reward tiers that you've created, and you've basically got in this month you're trying to raise a set amount of money for your project. You say, I need $2,000 in order to go to a printer and get 200 books printed, for example. So you're trying to raise $2,000, you set that as your goal, and you have whatever time you've set, so a month, to hit that goal. If you do not hit the goal, you are not given any money. Um, but if you do hit the goal, then at the end of that month, Kickstarter will charge all of your backers for the reward tier that they have chosen, and you will get that money deposited into your bank account, and you then will use that money to make the cool project and then send all your backers their rewards. And it's a really fun way of kind of interacting with readers in a different way. It's also really cool to get readers like really involved in the book making process. You know, they love getting updates about, you seeing the proof copies of the books from the printer or putting the merch together or the artists working on the artwork. So they love kind of being involved in the process. And it's also can be a really cool way to sort of reward fans and super fans of a series by giving them this kind of special project that might not be available anywhere else, or they might be the first people to get a certain something, a book or something like that. So yeah, that's kind of Kickstarter in a nutshell.
Fantastic. So it's not something you would do if you're a very first time author and it's like your very first book and you want to jump straight in like this, right? You kind of need an audience.
Yes, and no.
Okay.
So generally speaking, I would say yes, just because it's quite a steep learning curve with Kickstarter. You know, you are not only are you writing a book and, you've got to figure out how Kickstarter works. You've then also got to put together like a project that's really engaging and that people want to back. And you've then got to do the whole fulfillment side of it, where you actually, go and get your book published, and then you've got to send it out to people, and often those people are all over the world, and it can get very complicated. So, from that perspective, it is much easier as a beginning author to just kind of put your books up on Amazon and just sort of let them do some of the work.
Yeah.
But in saying that, a lot of these types of platforms, we normally say they don't have like an audience that's searching on those platforms. So Patreon is a really good example. There's not really an audience that goes to Patreon and searches for people to back.
Mm.
Um, but with Kickstarter, it's actually a little bit different. Kickstarter actually does have an audience and a recommendation engine. And there are people who, basically just they enjoy backing Kickstarters and they may back, 50 Kickstarters a year or something like that. We call these people super backers. But even then, it is relatively common for people who are in the Kickstarter ecosystem to find new creators and new projects that they really, that they're excited about, that appeal to them, even if they've never read that author before. I do a little kind of survey on my last couple of Kickstarters, and a quarter of my backers, which is quite a high number, haven't heard of me before the Kickstarter. So that's their first interaction with me as an author, is my Kickstarter.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's quite so people who come onto the platform, as long as you have done your homework and you understand how to run a Kickstarter and you understand what you know what makes a really great campaign, people can and have come on with debut books that haven't been out anywhere else, and can run a really successful campaign.
Amazing. All right, so break it down for us. What actually is involved in running a successful campaign? Give us one of your examples. What have you kind of offered?
Okay. Um, so I'll kind of just I'll kind of just briefly talk through my like Kickstarter, the Kickstarters that I've done, and then we can kind of break it down a bit further. And I've got examples.
Wonderful.
So my first Kickstarter was actually for a children's picture book. So I have loved Kickstarter for years. I've backed around 100 projects on it, not all of them in the book world. So I enjoyed it as a backer before I loved it as an author. And I've always wanted to do a Kickstarter. And in 2018, when I quit my day job, one of the things I did to kind of celebrate was I wrote this children's picture book that I had had in my head for a number of years, just as like a fun project. And I had a friend illustrator, and we did a whole Kickstarter campaign, and that was a successful campaign. We asked for 8,000 New Zealand dollars, which was about 5,000 US dollars. And we just made it. Like on the very last day, we were talking about that we were about $500 short or something, and we were talking about maybe just throwing in that of our own money, and then at the very last few hours, it just tipped over. So we just made it. And then in 2022, um, I uh, authors were starting to do more with these sort of fancier special edition hardcover books for fans. And I wanted to really get in on the ground with that. It was only really just starting to happen, but I was very intrigued, and I realized that Kickstarter was the ideal place to do a project like that. And I decided to do my Nevermore Bookshop series. So Nevermore Bookshop is 10 books long. At the time, in 2022, books 8 and 9 were not published yet. So were not written or published. And book 10 is a novella. So the novella was already published, but there was two books that weren't in the series yet. So it was incomplete. Um, this was at the time not my most popular series, but by quite a long shot actually. But it is my fan favorite series. So anytime people recommended me to other readers, any fan mail that I ever got was always about the Nevermore Bookshop series, even though it wasn't my most popular. And I thought, well, that's the ideal series to start with some fancy books. So I got some new covers made, and I decided my Kickstarter was going to be for books 1 to 3 in the series only, and we were going to do a beautiful hardcover with a brand new cover they hadn't seen before. It was going to have some foil on it. It was going to have some interiors, and I would do a little bit of merch that kind of I like it when the merchandise kind of expands the world of the books. So these books are set, the Nevermore series is set in this kind of small English village, and it's all a little bit magical. So I did things like, the characters go to the village pub, so we made like beer coasters, like from the pub itself. And just, little enamel pins that were pins that the main character wore in the series, things like that, just things that kind of made you immersed in the world of the books.
Mm.
And I had an ultimate fan tier. Um, and in the ultimate fan tier, one of the things was that I would basically graffiti the books as if the characters had been writing in the books. So that was a lot of fun. And so I'll show you this to start with. So that's the cover. That's the covers of the Nevermore Bookshop that we did in the Kickstarter with the foil and everything. We got the pretty sprayed edges. And other things we did these end papers, illustrated end papers. They were signed, which is very
Of course.
with a little title page, and very popular. We did maps. So that was a map of the village, and there's like the actual floor plan of the bookshop, and
Oh,
these we did these as like art cards as well.
mhm.
So that was the project. 3 books. I priced it out at about I thought I needed about $10,000. I actually thought I needed about 12,000 New Zealand dollars in order to get maybe 50 or 100 of these made, 50 or 100 of each book made, plus all the merch. And so I put it up on Kickstarter, and we hit that $10,000 goal in, I think, 8 hours.
No way.
Yeah, so on the first day we hit that goal. And I sort of thought in my head, I pretty much knew I felt relatively confident that we were going to hit the goal.
Yeah.
Because at the time I had a relatively decent sized audience. And I sort of thought, we'll hit that goal. And I thought my sort of like stretch goal was it would be amazing to get $20,000. Um, and we were looking like we were going to hit $20,000 on like the third day. So I'm sort of going, oh, wow, that was different. And one thing that you can do on Kickstarter is you can do what they call a stretch goal, which is where you say, okay, well, we've completely surpassed the goal that we had set for the month, but we've still got the rest of the month. So let's try and aim higher. And when we hit this higher goal, all you backers who have, backed the Kickstarter and helped make this a thing are going to get something extra for it. And so sometimes, so for example, one of the things that we did was I actually didn't start with these sprayed edges. So the first stretch goal we did, the printer said they could do these gilded edges. So that was the first thing. If we hit $20,000, you guys get gilded edges on the books. And that encourages people to go and share the project. And it encourages all of your current fans who haven't already backed the project, like, oh, it's actually going to happen, it's actually successful, so they come along and back it as well. And then what we did is, then what I started doing is I started adding books. I started going, well, gosh, we've got so much money, we could actually do book 4. Um, and then, so that would be, if we get to $30,000, I'll add book 4, and then you guys can actually, you have to pay a little bit extra to add that on to your tier. And so that happened, and then we added book 5, and then we added book 6. And then we thought, oh, fuck it. Sorry. We thought, oh, to hell with it. And we added the novella. So at the end of the project, we had agreed to do for all the backers books 1 to 6 and the novella. So 7 books plus so it's all 7 books with the gilded edges and all the merch, and we had raised $55,000 New Zealand, which I think is about 33 or $35,000 US for the first Kickstarter. And so we did that. We printed the books, we did all the merch, we sent out the packages. We had a lot of problems, but we solved them all eventually. And then basically 2 years later, I decided that books 8 and I had written the next 2 books, so the series was now finished. And I thought, well, all these readers who've got the first 7, they're going to want those other 3 books to finish the series. So let's run the Kickstarter again for the whole series this time, with the exact same books, exact same covers, some different merch, some new different merch. In the interim, the series had got really, really popular, so I knew my audience was slightly bigger. And then the other thing we did was we decided to add, basically just as a kind of incentive for readers who had already backed the Kickstarter to come back and get the rest of the series, and also people who love like exclusive things to, basically give them something, basically encourage them to back the Kickstarter so they get something they can't get anywhere else. So we added these dust jackets.
Ah, gorgeous.
Um, so the whole series, so in the second Nevermore Bookshop Kickstarter, it's these exact same covers, but we also did these dust jackets. So if you had already bought books 1 to 3 or whatever in the first one, you could get the dust jacket. You got the dust jackets for the ones that you were buying, and you could also add on the dust jackets for the books you already had at home. So we did that as well. And we also did, yeah, a bunch of really cool new merch. So one of the highlights was this is Quoth.
Love the Raven.
Yeah, Quoth the Raven. He's one of the most popular characters in Nevermore Bookshop, and so we did him as a plushie. These were very, very, very popular. I'm trying to think what else we did. I did another ultimate fan tier.
Mhm.
So the way I usually do it is I have a low tier, which is a digital tier, and they get basically all the artwork for the series in a digital pack and an exclusive short story or piece of bonus content. Then I do a tier which is just one book for the people who, they want something, they want a trophy for their bookshelf, but they know this is a 10 book series and they can't afford the whole thing, so they just want one book to sort of symbolize their love of the whole series. So I do one book, and then I do the full series, or in the first Kickstarter it was the first 3 books. So full series, just the books. Then I do one book plus the merch pack, then the full series plus the merch pack, then the full series plus the merch pack plus the ultimate fan tier. So some other extra cool thing.
Mm.
Um, and in the Nevermore Bookshop, in the second Nevermore Bookshop, the Ultimate Fan tier included 3 things. It included an exclusive piece of artwork, which you actually can just see up there.
Gorgeous.
Um, so I might be able to bring it home. So you didn't get the frame, but this is an illustration done by Pepper Raccoon, who is a New Zealand artist, and it's all kind of Easter eggs for Nevermore Bookshop. So all these little things in here are kind of from the books. So it's a beautiful like your pen and ink line drawing. It's
Yeah,
stunning.
it
So
is.
it's got so they got that on like archival quality paper.
Yeah.
They got they were allowed to name a character in one of the upcoming books, and basically it was name a kitten. So I had the cat in the books, and the cat had a litter of kittens. I got to name one of the kittens. Um, and it was so popular that I ran out. I basically ended up with too many kittens, so they got to name like a different thing as well in the final book.
Oh.
So that was really fun, and they got what's the other thing? Oh, we did a newspaper. So the village has a newspaper, the Argleton Gazette. So I made an actual edition of the Gazette with all of these little articles that relate to the books, and like a classified section and a horoscope section and advertising and everything. And they got that, and it was a very simple thing. It was work for me to write it, but it was quite a simple thing to make because I'm literally just printing a newspaper.
Yeah.
Um, and that followed that, but they loved it. So that's what we did for that one.
Ah,
So that was Kickstarter number 3.
yeah.
And then Kickstarter number 4, I'll try and go through this one quickly. Uh, Kickstarter number 4, it was for the Grimdale Graveyard series, and this is a 4-book series which is set in the same world as Nevermore Bookshop. So what I'm doing is I am, the people who've already backed those other ones are very likely to want, this one as well. So we did a four book series. Similar kind of vibes. This time I always try and add something new that I haven't done before. So this time we actually did slipcases, which I hadn't done before. So, and we did, because we only had 4 books to do, we did paperbacks and hardcovers. So these are the paperbacks, um, and they, they are gorgeous, and they have lots of foil on them. They have a sprayed edge. And then they've got kind of interior illustrations and all kinds of goodies.
Amazing.
So we did paperbacks, we did the hardcovers, and we did a whole bunch of merch as well, including Ozzy. And Ozzy is a bat from the series, and he again is a really popular character. And now I love plushies, so I have to do them all the time. So we do. His little feet just get me.
So adorable.
Um, so we did Ozzy, uh, and we did a bunch. We did a lot more art sort of stuff this time. So we did these like really quite nice character cards with foil on them, and they've got like Nevermore Bookshop on the back. And we did there's a character in Grimdale Graveyard, Edward. He's a ghost, and he thinks he is an amazing poet. He's like a 17th century poet. He thinks he's amazing, but he's actually terrible. So this is like his poetry journal. Um, and it's all foiled, it's all gilded edges, and then it's got kind of like Edward quotes. Um, Pepper did a whole bunch of illustrations for it, and it's all done in kind of black and white, so you can color it in,
Yeah.
if you want to. So, so that was just really fun, and that's obviously just a book that you print with your printer, so it was quite easy. And yeah, once again, we had the books. You could get just the books, just book one, or the whole series in paperback or hardcover. Then you could get the merch pack. Then you could get the ultimate fan tier, and we did the same thing again. We did a beautiful piece of artwork. We did the ability to name a character in an upcoming book, and we did a this time because the series features like a B&B, so we did a B&B guide. Like the kind of the book that you pick when you go to an Airbnb and there's like a book on the table that has like restaurants nearby and what the Wi-Fi password is and stuff. So I wrote that for the B&B in the series, and that was the ultimate fan tier
Wow.
piece of stuff. And that Kickstarter is currently basically everything is done. We are just waiting for the books to arrive before we can fulfill it.
Mm, wow. So I love this. I love that you've included all of those things and used the FOMO, the fear of missing out, with these exclusive products. And, you're, like you said, you're having to rewrite, well, not rewrite, but write certain things like the newspaper and that sort of thing. But it's all, yeah, it's so linking within the world and the community that it is just enhancing and building the fandom, really, of Nevermore Bookshop and your book series. I think that is so incredibly clever and like well done to get all those goals too. That's amazing. And it certainly does make all this the special editions, the sprayed edging, the foiling, more affordable. I know I'm right in the midst of trying to source paperbacks for various books, and it's not cheap. It's really not. So I can see why, and I do have this now ticking at the back of my mind, going, well, maybe I should just do a Kickstarter. Of course, there is so much work involved. So we'll talk about that now. So you have to organize it all on Kickstarter. Is you just log into Kickstarter.com and set it all up. It's hard.
Yeah, It's pretty, Kickstarter, one thing you say about Kickstarter, Kickstarter has a really robust like help system. And so they've got a lot of articles and like advice on their website. They've got a lot of videos with creators that you can watch. There is also a Facebook group called Kickstarter for Authors, which is where all the authors who are running Kickstarters are like hanging out there and swapping information about printers and things like that. And that is a really useful place to go. The thing that I recommend the most, if you are interested in writing in doing a Kickstarter, is to actually go and back a Kickstarter. Because you will understand it in a way that you won't otherwise. I think everyone needs the experience of being a backer so they can see how it works from the backer's perspective, and that's the easiest way to understand kind of the crux of Kickstarter. But yes, it is amazing for being able to. But basically, I have like an online store, like a direct store, and we sell a lot of these kind of the leftovers off of Kickstarter. But I stock that store entirely from funds from the Kickstarters. Second Nevermore Kickstarter did nearly 200,000 New Zealand. It was 191. And the Grimdale Kickstarter, it was slightly fewer books and it's a slightly less popular series. So that did 120,000 New Zealand dollars. But, that having that injection, a lot of that money has to go towards fulfilling the Kickstarter, but having that injection of cash enables you to do other, you can use it to do other projects. And sometimes I get other books, while I'm at the printer. Get other books done as well. So it's quite good.
Absolutely. So obviously you've got to find the printers, you've got to find the designers, you've got to find the people to make the plushies and the pins and all these sorts of things. Then you'd have to work out the pricing in order to how much you are going to charge for those tiers. So there is obviously some thought that goes into this before you're ready to launch it. So, and then you said, I'm just trying to get the timeline here. So you organize all of that. So you've got those, how much you need to make and everything else. And then you put it on Kickstarter for around about a month, you were saying?
Yeah. Um, my first one was the first Nevermore was 35 days. And I think that's a little bit too long. And I've kind of settled on around like 17 to 20 days as my sort of ideal length for it. Because you've got to really, because it's on this ticking clock, you've got to really be like every single day you need to be on social media telling people the Kickstarter, it's counting down, it's counting down. Um, you need to be emailing people, email every second day during the Kickstarter, and I do social media every single day. So if you're running it for two, you can run them for up to 60 days, but if you're running it for 60 days, you literally just run out of things to talk about.
Yeah, all right. So this
Yeah.
was definitely the next part was how do you promote? So Kickstart will recommend a little bit there, and then you're promoting it. Are you running Facebook ads and that sort of
Yeah.
thing?
So the bulk of what I do is so Kickstarter will now allow you to do what they call a pre-launch, where you basically kind of launch like a preview of what they can get in the Kickstarter, and you can decide how much information you want to give away beforehand. So you have a pre-launch page, and you can then, for as long as you have that pre-launch page active, so you can decide how long that is, you can send your audience to that page, and there's a little thing they click that says notify me on launch. And the second that you click your Kickstarter going live, all those people on that pre-launch page get an email that says this has gone live. And that is where you're going to get a massive, massive swing of backers on the first day. So a lot of what your that you're doing is really trying to get people to hit that notify me on launch
Mhm.
on that pre-launch page. The kind of conventional wisdom is that however many backers you have on that pre-launch page, around 20% of those backers are going to become Kickstarter backers. And it can actually help you to figure out how much you like figure out your budgeting
Yeah.
because you can sort of go, oh, well, if a book, so my books cost $70 New Zealand roughly. 65, $70 New Zealand. And most people are going to buy the books and not the other stuff. So they're going to get, if you're doing 3 books, most people are going to buy the 3 books and nothing else. If you're doing 1 book, most of them are going to get 1 book and nothing else. So use that as like your average. So if you're doing 1 book, your average order is $70 and you want to raise $1,000. So you need, however many people that is. You need, I can't math. Say your book is 100. Say your thing is $100 for you
Yeah.
for it's $100 for 2 books, and you want to raise $1,000. You need 10 people to back it at $100 in order to get that $1,000. If you have 100 people, no, if you have 50 people backing the pre-launch page, then you can kind of go, I'm pretty sure I'm going to get there.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. So that's kind of how that could be really useful with the math.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. You got this pre-launch page, and you can pre-launch the Kickstarter for weeks beforehand, months beforehand if you want. Some people do it like a year beforehand. Get that number up as high as you can, just by promoting it, social media, newsletters, the usual places. Then you go live. It's all go. The clock is ticking. Um, I mostly kind of hammer my existing audience, and I am not shy about it. This is not the time to worry about, oh, people will be so sick of hearing about me.
Mm.
No, no. People join your newsletter, they follow you on social media, they're looking at your stuff because they want to hear from you.
Yeah.
They will be sad if it gets to, a week after the Kickstarter and they didn't see it because you only posted about it twice. So you really, basically, I find every single time I post about the Kickstarter on social media, I get new backers. So I'm like, if I do that every single day, then every time I do that, I get new backers. Whereas I did that every second day, I'm not going to get, that's half the day's worth of backers I've missed out on, basically. So I do a lot of social media. Also, newsletter is really useful. I just highlight, basically you're just trying to figure out what you're going to talk about all the time. So I will highlight different things. One newsletter I'll talk about the maps, and one I will talk about the artists that I've employed, and like some of the details of the artwork and why we've chosen to go that direction. And then one time I might talk about the merch or something like that. So just trying to find different things to talk about, like different angles.
Yeah.
That's also why people like to do stretch goals, because when you have a new stretch goal, it gives you something new to talk about.
Amazing. Yes, that makes so much sense. So when it's finished and we're presuming we've hit all of our goals and we've made all of that money and everyone gets charged, then we have to account obviously for the printers and those sorts of things for it to actually come up. So it could be what, another 2 months, give or take, until everything's actually ready and dispatched.
Yeah, it sort of depends on how prepared you are.
Yeah.
So, one of the problems is that it's kind of figuring out basically how much work you need to do before the Kickstarter, before you launch your Kickstarter. And the general wisdom here is that you want to present as much as possible of the finished product as you can, because this is how you're convincing backers to back it. So usually you may not have all of your artwork done. So like for example, if you're doing 10 interior images, you may not have all of those interior images done, because obviously each of those you need to pay an artist for. And we're kind of doing the Kickstarter so we can get some money so we can pay some artists.
Yeah.
So you need to kind of invest a little bit before you even do the Kickstarter, which is kind of a problem that people have. So if you've got 10 internal illustrations, you may not have all of them done, but you may have 3 of them done, so you can show people what they can expect. You really need the cover done. If the thing is if the book's having a cover, if it's got a dust jacket, if it's got sprayed edges, you really need those done. That's pretty non-negotiable. You can't just be like, well, cover coming later, because it's not going to attract people. If you have if you're doing merch, you do not have to do merch, but if you're doing merch, I think you really minimum you need to show people the designs. It's better if you can show people a sample, but we have done them where because we do sort of 5 to 8 merch items, and usually some of the merch items, one or two of them, we don't have a sample yet because it's just always chaos. So we just show a like a mock-up. And that can be fine for some things. So
Mm.
you need a little bit of that before you start, but you're obviously not going to have the books, done and dusted before you start. I have found, because I use printers overseas, that the timelines are, and a lot more authors are now doing Kickstarters, they're doing special editions. We're all using the same printers, and those printers are very used to printing for large publishers. So they're used to printing kind of basic books at high volume, like 10,000 copies, 20,000 copies. And we are asking them to do super fancy books with all the bells and whistles at very low quantities. So if you're using an offset printer like I am, a lot, sometimes the minimum is 500 copies, sometimes the minimum is 250 copies. Sometimes you can kind of negotiate with them and you can do like 150 copies, but that is a very, very low amount of books that they're doing. But every time they're running those books, they have to, reset all the fancy machines, the foil and all the things. So our books are labor intensive, and we're printing them in lower quantities. So basically the printers, they are a struggling.
Mhm.
And there is also shipping delays. There is also, so I print in China. There is Chinese New Year to contend with because everyone goes on holiday for like a month,
Mhm.
which yay for them. But it always happens. It always happens when I really needed them to not be on holiday.
Yeah.
Um, and there's also things like, so just simply like customs
Mm.
and tariffs and things like that into some countries are getting more and more difficult. So the process is pulling out. I used to say you can get your book from getting the money into your account to getting your books 2 months, unless you have any single problem, in which case 3 months. So to plan for 3 months. Now I sort of say 4 to 6 months. And if you get them earlier, you can get them earlier, but usually the books that I have that I get earlier are reprints, where it's literally just me saying, print me another 500 copies of that book, and they just can do it and get it in the queue. But
Mhm.
there, for whatever reason, there's always a lot of back and forth. So I would be planning for sort of 4 to 6 months, especially if you're not in um if you're not in the country where your bulk of your readers are, which is my issue because I'm in New Zealand and the bulk of my readership is in the US. So, which is probably something we're going to talk about.
Yes, well, you definitely then have to worry about. So you would get your book sent to a storehouse or something in the US and then get someone else to dispatch for you. How does that?
Yeah. So, one of the things that backers are wanting when they are backing a book on Kickstarter is they kind of expect the book to be signed.
Yes.
Now, this can create an issue, because you have to obviously somehow physically be in the presence of the books in order to sign them.
Yeah.
Or do you? Yeah. So basically, generally speaking, you have to be physically in the presence of the books to sign them. Now, if you are, let's be honest, if you are not in the US, for most of us, the bulk of our audience is in the US because it's just where the bulk of the readers in the world are. US readers are not used to paying high shipping prices for things. So, us over here in the Antipodes, we are quite used to online shopping where the shipping costs the same amount as what we're buying, and we just suck it up and buy things. Because if we want to buy things from overseas, that's just what we're used to. But the US readers are not used to that, and so having high shipping prices will turn some people off. So my first two Kickstarters, we shipped from New Zealand.
Mhm.
So the children's picture book and the Nevermore number one. And I just said, look, it's just we're just doing it like this because it's just I couldn't deal with anything else. We're just going to try it like this, and we're just going to see what happens. And I expected there to be basically no US. I expected it to turn them all off. I expected there to be no US followers and no US backers. And there were around half of the Kickstarter was US backers. So people were still backing the Kickstarter. I still did $55,000. A lot of people still backed it, even though they were paying very high shipping prices because the books were shipped to New Zealand. I signed them all and then they were shipped out to the readers. Um, so that is one solution. You just bite the bullet and do it anyway. There are other solutions. So you could not sign the books. You could do a digital signature. Plus side, you don't have to worry about it. Downside, a lot of readers don't really like them. The second option is you can do a book plate, so you can drop ship your books from places like Book Vault or Ingram Spark into that country. And you can then separately ship the reader a signed book plate to put in the book, and that's one way of doing it. If you're doing a smaller campaign and you're just doing print on demand books, that's quite a good way of doing it. The third option you have, this is what I do now, is to do tip-in pages. So here's my example. So this is a tip-in page. So this actually came from my second Kickstarter because I didn't use tip-ins in the first Kickstarter. So that's a tip-in. So what happens is the printer prints me just this page with this nice little border that Pepper drew. So just that page. They send me boxes of just that page. I had to do 10,000 for the second Kickstarter. And I sign those pages, send them back to the printer, and they then bind one page into each book. So the books can go straight from the printer to the country, to wherever they're shipped from without having to go through me. So tip-ins are amazing if you can get a printer that does them. It's really going to be only the offset printers who will do them. So the printers who are going to do bulk printing are really the only printers that will do them. And it is going to add some extra time. So if you can get them done before, like while the Kickstarter is running or before the Kickstarter is running, that is a good idea. Because yeah, the big Nevermore one, I did them afterwards, and I underestimated the amount of time it would take me to do 10,000. And it took me about a month to 6 weeks, and so that was extra time when nothing was being printed. And so with the tip-ins, you can then ship your books from wherever. You don't have to physically be there. So I actually have a team. So in New Zealand, I employ Amy, who is my assistant, and assistant and business manager. So Amy does all of the fulfillment and all of the logistics for the Kickstarters. So I basically don't do anything except come up with the ideas, commission all the artwork, and like write the Kickstarter page, and I do all the promotion and stuff. But Amy does everything else. She figures out the shipping. She like sources all of the stuff. She argues with the vendors for me, and then she does all of the shipping and all of the fulfillment. For New Zealand, Australia, and the UK. And then I have a girl at a fulfillment warehouse in America, and she does America fulfillment and the rest of the world. And she also, as part of her fulfillment, she does a lot of printing as well. So we get all of like vellum overlays and not safe for work artwork is printed through her as well. So she does US, rest of the world, and Amy does Australia, New Zealand, UK. And I don't have to do anything, which is amazing. Um,
Are there, I mean, obviously you have people that you employ, which is amazing. Are there, do you know of any businesses who will actually run, do all that work for you that you can pay?
Yes. So you've got lots of options here.
Okay.
So you were going to, if you're going to be hiring, if you're going to be working with companies, the downside is you are going to, obviously have to pay them. So you will need to work that into your Kickstarter, the money that you're earning. Massive, massive upside is that they take away a lot of the headache and a lot of work.
Yes.
So my fulfillment, so obviously Amy is my in New Zealand, she is my no one else can have her, she's mine, basically.
Yeah.
But my fulfillment company in the US is A Plus Author Services, and they do fulfillment for a number of authors, and they have been excellent to work with, so I recommend them. There is a bunch of fulfillment companies in the US, and in other places as well. Amelia Young has one in Wicked Books in Australia. So she does they do fulfillment for authors in Australia. If you're like in the US and you want to give Australians a good, and New Zealanders a good shipping price. Um, and there's a bunch of other ones in America who operate similar to A+. If you're in that Kickstarter for Authors Facebook group, that's a really good place to look for them. There are also companies that will actually manage the whole Kickstarter for you. So not just the fulfillment, but the whole process, like sourcing the artists, making up the page, putting all the graphics together, sourcing all the merch, everything. They'll basically set it up, and your job is basically just to promote it. The Influence is one of the big ones in the US who do this, and they've been very popular and very successful with authors. For that kind of Kickstarter management, you are going to give over more of your profit to them. I think the Influence takes like they take the cost and then they take 50% of the profit after the costs have been paid. Something. Don't quote me on that, but it's something like that. Um, so you're going to be paying more for that kind of full management versus just a fulfillment company. But on the plus side, it's very like plug and play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've used or am currently using Influence for some special editions, not for Kickstarter at this point, um, but they have been great. So I'll definitely look into that too, because obviously, as authors, we are in our zone of genius, which is the writing. And I'm sure you're not alone if you're watching this and you're just going, "Oh my God, that's so hard. That's awesome." But so
Yeah.
there's certainly a part of me that's doing that, just going, "Oh, my anxiety is so high." So that is awesome that we've gotten to that point where businesses can help with these products because I mean, you get to that point where if you don't do it, you're not going to make any money. So is it worth giving a little bit to a different company rather than do it yourself? So I think that's an individual decision that everyone needs to make, of course.
Yeah, exactly. Basically, everyone is going to be different. I will never do
Mm.
fulfillment ever again myself. Did the fulfillment for I had 140 of the children's picture books to fulfill, and I did that myself. And the struggle to try and sit down and actually do it, it was so hard. I basically had people emailing me being like, "Why haven't the books shipped yet?" And that was the only thing that would get me to sit down at the table and you stuff the packages. I just hate it. I hate it. It's not for me.
Yeah.
But I will probably never like hand over the full management because I really enjoy it. And once once you've kind of got a printer that you like to work with and you've got vendors that you like to work with, we use the same vendors and the same artists over and over and over again. And I like that for two reasons. One, because I don't have to keep constantly finding new people. So each Kickstarter we do gets easier. And two, I like having a visual language for my stuff. So, because all my books are set in the same world, I like that if you follow me across subsequent Kickstarters and you pick up lots of books, and you pick up lots of merch, it all kind of you can instantly tell that's the Steffanie Holmes, that's from the Nevermore Bookshop world. Um, so it's a kind of a branding thing as well.
Mm.
Um, yeah, and once you've worked with once you've worked with a company before, um, whether it's for plushies or enamel pins or whatever, you don't need to change that every time.
Yes.
Um, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. That has been absolutely amazing. I have learnt so much. I am both excited and anxious now to take the next step. But I love that so much for you. That is just so amazing that you've been able to do this. And how many are you doing in 2026?
Definitely two.
Definitely.
Definitely maybe three if I can talk Amy into it.
I love it. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for all of this information. What is the best website where we can go and sign up for your newsletter so we know when your next Kickstarter is coming out?
I think I would go and look at Nevermore Bookshop, which is my online store. So that's nevermorebookshop.co.nz, and you can see all of my books there, all of my special editions, all of the merch that most of which we've made through Kickstarter, and sign up for the newsletter, and that'll let you know when the next Kickstarter is coming up, which is in February.
Absolutely. That is amazing. Thank you so much for your time today, Steph. I so appreciate it.
You are welcome. It was heaps of fun.
Wasn't that just incredible? Steph is such a powerhouse, and I love how she's not only creating beautiful special editions, but using them to build a deeply loyal, engaged fandom that just keeps growing. Her success is proof that when you lean into your creative vision and invite readers into your world, truly magical things can happen. If you're feeling inspired and want to see this in action, head over to nevermorebookshop.co.nz to browse Steph's stunning special editions, sign up for her newsletter, and follow along with her latest campaign. It's about to start running. And if you're ready to take your author career to the next level in 2026, I'd love for you to join me at my next writing retreat. It's in Queenstown in March, and Steph will be leading a special virtual masterclass exclusively for our attendees, where she'll be sharing her unique approach to building fandom and turning casual readers into lifelong fans. Spaces are limited, so head to serenadepublishing.com to learn more and reserve your spot. Thanks for being here with me on the Right Podcast. Until next week, remember, you are a writer, believe it, own it, and keep going. Your readers are waiting.